Did I just discover an easy way to cook perfect briskets and eliminate any dryness or toughness in the flat? In this experiment, I'm testing a weird method of cooking brisket where I preheat it before putting it on the smoker, and we're going to see if it makes a difference, so let's get smoking. One of the things I struggle with when I'm cooking briskets is flats kind of coming out a little bit dry. They're leaner, they don't have as much fat as the point, and they usually come out a little bit tougher. So I've been on a mission to figure it out, and one of the theories that I have is between the temperature zone of around 40 degrees, so right when it comes out of the fridge, and 140 degrees, right where it starts to get into the stall, is where most of the uneven cooking and dryness happens with the brisket, because I've noticed that the point often goes up slower in temperature than the flat, so it's cooking unevenly, and also we're not getting as much moisture sweating out of the brisket to protect the brisket from getting dried out during that phase of the cook. So it got me thinking, what if I preheated my brisket to 140 degrees before putting it on the smoker? Would it help the brisket cook more evenly, and would I be able to put the brisket in the smoker at a point internally in the brisket where it's sweating out more moisture, it's more able to protect itself from the hot convective air from the firebox, and it would come out more juicy and tender and avoid a lot of dryness in the flat. That's the theory anyway, so I'm trying it out in this video with two choice briskets. The first one I'm rubbing with my rub, which I'll be commercializing soon. If you guys want to be the first to know when it comes out, there is a sign up form in the description section below. I'm then putting it in a sous vide bag. It will sous vide at 140 overnight, so in the morning when I put it on the smoker, it's going to be exactly 140 degrees throughout. The second brisket, I'm rubbing it down and I'm leaving it in the fridge overnight. It's going to start on the smoker tomorrow at around 45 degrees Fahrenheit, which is refrigerator temperature. The next morning, I'm opening up my Pits and Spits Maverick 1250 and I'm starting up the smoke cage. This is a little metal cage that sits next to the burn pot and burns real chunks of wood. I find it gives a ton of smoke flavor to my briskets and I love using it. And speaking of the smoke cage, I want to take a second to thank Pits and Spits for sponsoring this video. Pits and Spits is a manufacturer of high quality cookers from Houston, Texas. They sent me this Maverick 1250 to try out, and I find myself choosing it again and again every time I want to smoke anything on a pellet grill. It's got a ton of cooking area and a large slide out upper rack, which is absolutely essential for cooking good brisket on a pellet grill, and it's all hand welded, super beefy, and made to last forever. It's a true investment in a family heirloom. The other thing that really made me love this grill is the smoke cage. It's an optional accessory that you can get that burns chunks of hardwood right next to the burn pot, like I said before in this video. During a long brisket cook, I just light it initially and add a few chunks every 20 to 30 minutes, just like I would on an offset smoker. And yes, it is still more convenient than an offset smoker because I don't have to worry about temperature control or fire management. I just chuck a few chunks in every 20 to 30 minutes, and the smoke flavor that it adds is absolutely phenomenal. I love it. It allows me to create offset smoker quality briskets on a pellet grill, which is absolutely crazy to me. If you guys want to check out the Maverick series of pellet grills and the smoke cage, I will link them in the description section below. Highly recommend these products. If you guys want to pick one up, you won't be disappointed. Okay, back to the video. Now the deflector plate goes over top of the burn pot and the smoke cage, and the drip pan goes on, and then the racks and the water pan. I place a large water pan underneath my brisket to block the radiant heat coming from below, and that helps me cook brisket with just nice gentle convective heat in my pellet grills. Now, I'm opening the preheated brisket, which is now at exactly 140 degrees throughout, and what I noticed immediately is there's a lot of water in this sous vide bag, so I'm really interested in how that moisture loss ahead of putting it on the smoker will affect how it cooks. Maybe it'll make it more dry. Now, I'm taking the other brisket out of the fridge so we can get a side-by-side look before they go on the smoker, and both look actually pretty similar, but the preheated one has some rub washed off, so I'm topping it off, and now they're both going on the Maverick with a large water pan below them, and I'm going to smoke them at 250 for around 12 hours like I do with all my briskets. Normally, I do a super low and slow overnight cook with my briskets to darken up the bark and add some smoke flavor on my pellet grills, but because I'm using the smoke cage, which adds that smoke flavor, I don't need to. I'll just be adding chunks of wood to the smoke cage every 20 to 30 minutes to get that smoky offset quality flavor. Now, taking a look at the temperature graph, the preheated brisket started at 140 and it kind of dipped down for the first hour, down to 128, which was really weird. Maybe because it lost momentum during the time when I took it out of the sous vide bag, but the non-preheated brisket rose in temperature pretty steadily. Then after an hour, you can see how the preheated brisket point rose in temperature much faster than the other brisket, and it outpaced the flat, which is probably a good thing because when the flat cooks faster than the point, it often gets overcooked in my experience. And finally, it hit 190 degrees internal in just 7 hours, whereas normally it would take 12 hours for one of my briskets to hit 190, a pretty substantial difference. difference. Now, 7 hours later, the preheated brisket looked like this, and it was probing at least 190 everywhere, so I wrapped it and held it at 150 for the next 18 hours. Meanwhile, the control brisket took another 5 hours to hit 190 at the 12-hour mark, so I removed it from the smoker, wrapped it, and let it hold with the preheated brisket. Then I went to bed and got ready for the taste test the next day. Brisket, brisket, brisket. Ooh, brisket. All right, guys, here's the normal brisket, and here's the preheated brisket. Oh, my Lord. Whoa! Woo! A little bit of sneezies here. Maybe I'm allergic to brisket. Hope not. How terrible would that be? My whole life would be ruined, actually. I built my career on it. Ooh. This brisket's actually feeling really good. Really liking the feel of that. And let's see how it compares to the preheated briskets. Or are you going to be not good at all? Ooh. Ooh. A lot more tender. A lot more tender than the regular brisket. That's interesting. Very interesting. Well, let's get some tallow on the board here. Oh, just in case it's dry, then I can hide that from you guys. Okay, let's slice into the normal brisket first and just check how it's looking. The point is really tender, I can already tell. This is going to be a good brisket. These smaller briskets, I like smaller briskets. They just seem to turn out better. Beautiful. Ooh. Yummy. Okay. Let's chunk some of this off. Burnt ends. Ooh. It's a beautiful brisket, guys. Absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell this is going to be a gooder. She's going to be good, boy. All right. There's a slice of the point for you guys. Oh, if only you could smell it. It smells amazing. I'll pull it apart. Perfect. Perfect. Mmm. Oh. Dude. That is so good. Oh. It's perfect. Oh my God. So good. Let's get a slice of the flat here. Just to see how... Oh. A little bit shredded there. Okay. Just to see how it turned out. Yeah, it's pulling apart really nicely. Mmm. Really nice. Perfect brisket. I don't know how the other preheated brisket is going to beat this one, guys. It was pretty good. Okay. Let's move on to the preheated brisket. Give this guy a slice right about here. Also quite nice. Yeah. I could grow to like this brisket. Seems quite nice already. Give you guys the double-decker shot. Ooh. Juicy. Mmm. Yeah, this is going to be good. I dare say, without even tasting it. Okay. Let's give this a little bit of a slice here. Do some big old burnt ends. Put those to the side. And I'll do some slices. And we'll see how the point turned out in this baby. Quite nice. That's good. Really good. Okay, so both briskets in the point at least are pretty comparable. Pretty tasty. Let's see if the preheated brisket solved the problem of the dreaded dry flat. So just poking around here, I mean, the flat seems kind of tough, just like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, all of my briskets. The very tip of the flat is usually pretty tough. So let's cut into that part. Well, first of all, I'll cut into the very tip of the flat on this just regular brisket here. Yeah, a little bit tough. A little bit tough. And then we cut it right here. Okay. And let's see what we got. I mean, it's going to pull apart, obviously, but... it's actually pretty good, surprisingly. Let's do the very, very tip of the flat here. I mean, usually that's really dry. If you guys look at that, it's pretty dry. But still pretty decent, surprisingly. So let's try it on the preheated brisket here. The very tip of the flat. Very tip. Okay. Give you guys a look at that. Pulls apart nicely. It's actually quite nice, surprisingly. I did not expect that. Let's go a little bit further into the flat here. Seems a little bit tough when I try to slice into it. It looks a little bit tough. Looks a little bit dry. Pull it apart here. Pretty good. It's very tasty. Beefy. I'm going to take another slice from the regular brisket here. Also really tasty, but I find that the preheated brisket, the flat is a little bit more beefy. It's almost like it hasn't been overcooked, getting towards that more pot roasty flavor. But it's very tough to tell. Too tough to make a call, guys. I would have to conclude that both of these briskets are pretty much equal in terms of how they taste, how they smell, how they look. The one that stayed on the smoker a little bit longer for an extra couple hours, it's a little bit more smoky. It's a little bit darker. The one that we preheated, I'm not really tasting any difference in terms of whether the flat is more juicy or tender or better cooked than the normal brisket that I did. The only thing that I can say for certain is that by preheating the brisket to 140 degrees before putting it on the smoker, I saved a lot of time. I think this brisket only spent like 8 hours on the smoker, and usually I cook briskets for 12 hours. So an 8-hour cook is really good. That means I can start cooking in the morning and be done by before dinner anyway, and I don't have to stay up really late cooking a brisket. And then I can just chuck it in the sous vide holding chest or the oven at 150 and then eat it for lunch or dinner the next day. So there are some merits to this preheating method, but based on this experiment, I wouldn't say that it increases the tenderness or the juiciness or allows it to cook more evenly or adds anything to the final product beyond just cutting down the sheer amount of time that it takes to cook a brisket. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to get more involved in the Smoke Trails barbecue community, consider joining my Patreon. I'll link it in the description below. You can get access to a Discord chat server there and access to the barbecue community there. We're all a bunch of barbecue nerds trying to get better at barbecue. It's a great community, and you'll get instant access to me to ask me questions in real time. Really highly recommend you guys join that. The other thing you can do is follow me on Instagram. You can join the Smoke Trails Barbecue Nerds Facebook group on Facebook. Or you can just like and subscribe and leave a comment below, especially if you have any ideas for experiments you want to see on my channel. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. I will see you in the next video, and happy smoking.